What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Peet Marketing Podcast. Today, we've got my man Max Sadik here. Max has a bachelor's degree in business science with a concentration in marketing and a master's degree in business administration with a minor in marketing. He's also a certified Facebook and Google. He's certified by Facebook and Google to run ad campaigns on all of their platforms. And to maintain that certification, he has to take a test, a proctored test once a year. So it's not just like he runs ads, so he's certified. He actually is certified. In 2019, two of Max's clients started with no online courses, and in 1 year have achieved over $1 million in course sales. That's fantastic. Also in 2019, most of his clients who launched on an online course had more than $150,000 in sales in their initial 1 week launch. And aside from marketing for others, Max also offers educational marketing, specifically on how to run Facebook and Instagram ads. His education focuses on wedding businesses, and he offers a lot of free education in his Facebook group called Marketing for Wedding Pros. Also, when Max isn't bringing other people's success through marketing, he's either playing with his 22-month-old Zoe, photographing, cooking, or gardening. And from what I hear, you have an entire produce aisle in your backyard that you've grown. Max, I want to throw it over to you. How's it going, man?
It's going well. It's a good day. Our weather got better. It was really hot the last week, but today is like beautiful 78 degrees.
Oh,
so
nice.
I'm in great mood.
That's awesome. Awesome. You're down in Florida, right?
No, I'm Southern California.
Oh,
I was in Florida, but we moved last year.
Oh, I totally missed that move, man. That's awesome. Man, Southern California is absolutely gorgeous. I was there last September. Beautiful out there, man. I love it. All right. So for anybody who's listened to the first episode of the podcast, they kind of saw the flow, but I'm adding something in different today. We talked about this in our little pre-interview chat. Oh, also, while I'm still thinking about it, my co-host back there, for my listening, I have a little kitten. I haven't found a way to control him yet, so he may run and jump on top of my computer. You may see him running around. If anybody has ideas to how to control cats, just let me know, but he'll be around. But I got this deck of cards. It's called Poddex. They're my sponsor. Go to poddex.com. If you use code TheMattPeet, you get 10% off. But what they do is I draw a random card, ask a question. It's generic questions, interview prompts, and we're going to start off Max's interview here with a random. Here, I'll show you random here. I'll even turn it away from me. There we go. All right.
I love it. We're starting off on a deep end.
This could go really well or really bad. Let's see what happens.
Right.
All right. If you could undo one moment in your life, what would it be?
Ooh, gosh, I have to choose just one. Undo one moment in my life. Okay, yeah, I got one. So one of my hobbies that I didn't list on your questionnaire is I like to day trade in the morning, just the first hour when I get up. And one day I didn't sleep enough. I only had 2 hours of sleep, and I probably shouldn't have touched my trading software that day, but I did, and I pushed the wrong button and lost $10,000. If I could undo that, that'd be wonderful.
Oh, that is
Yeah, now I have a rule that if I haven't had a full night's sleep and I haven't eaten and don't feel good, I skip that ritual of my day.
That is a painful upset. I'm getting teary-eyed just thinking of that realization when that happened.
Yes, I got teary-eyed for several days after.
Oh, I'm getting teary-eyed for it. It didn't even happen to me. I can imagine what happened to you. Oh, that's rough, man. Oh, that was a good one. I like that. I would definitely want to take that back too. All right. So what would you consider your marketing specialty?
So marketing in general is to me like being a doctor. Saying that you're a marketer could be anything. Just like a doctor, you can be, fixing people's heart, or you can be fixing people's arms when they break it. So it's the same with marketing. For me, I really just stick to online. I don't really market physical businesses. My specialty is just dealing with people who are wholly entirely online. And I really shine with digital or service products, things that don't require you to ship anything or have inventory. While I have marketed brands that actually sell physical products, that's not where I consider my ninja skills are.
Nice. And I love the online space too, because I'm getting started. Anybody who's seen my unboxing video for the OFA challenge? Have you heard of Russell Brunson at all?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So he has the one funnel away challenge where it's 30 days to build a funnel, online business, or whatever. I'm in the middle of that, kind of towards the end of it now. And I'm actually building a course for videographer, or not
Amazing.
video, for entrepreneurs to learn how to use video to market their business. So when I saw that you have 2 clients that made over $1 million in sales, like I have a course I'm creating, and in my mind, I'm thinking, if I can get like $1,000 a month, through selling and helping people, and then Max over here is like $1 million. It's like, I'm thinking way too small or completely wrong. So I need to have a conversation with you about how to get even a portion of that success. I'll take a tenth of that success.
This is what I find the biggest thing that holds people back with marketing is that even though we've been in the online age for a few decades now, and when I say we, I mean the generation that remembers not having online stores, we haven't fully comprehended the difference the difference that occurred in our world. We're used to thinking of our marketing reach as our town, our city, our county, our state maybe, but we don't think globally. But when you're online, you could just as easily make a sale to somebody who lives next door to you and a minute later sell to somebody who lives in New Zealand. And there's no difference. It would be exactly the same transaction. And so I find people our age who just, even when we were teenagers, online stores wasn't such a huge thing. We don't think in those terms. But if you think how many people are online just in the English-speaking countries, and they might need your product, $1 million is actually not a lot of money when you think in that scale.
Dude, I love your mindset, because like $1 million isn't a lot of money when you think of that scale. Like for me, $1 million, like I've always wanted, like that's been my big like dream. I'm sure you heard my last podcast, the Find Your Creative Success podcast. I talked about that, how I want to be $1 million in the bank by the time I was 30. And I have tried so hard. And that's tough. Like, granted, I've been running a brick and mortar business, service-based thing, selling my time. I've kind of realized that that's a lot of time to sell to hit $1 million. But that's why that's why I'm switching to kind of some online stuff. But like, that's a hefty target. So I'm really looking forward to this interview because of your mindset, mainly just like the thought process of reaching somebody in different areas and hitting that $1 million mark. Like, man, okay. So let's move on while I'm this amped. All right. So what's something you see other people do in their marketing that makes you cringe? Number one thing to avoid doing.
Yeah, totally. So again, bringing it back to that in-person experience that we no longer have when we're running a business fully online. If you think of having a shop, let's say you have a restaurant. When a client walks in, you get to smile, you get to greet them, you get to have a quick exchange of conversation with them. And only then you are expecting them to look into what you're selling and perhaps make a purchase. You don't expect them to walk in unless you're selling necessities like sugar or flour or salt. You don't expect them to walk in and without any exchange to make a purchase right away. The biggest mistake that people do is they're not bringing that same mentality online. They'll put together a beautiful website and they'll put together a good quality offer on there, but then they'll run an ad, let's say on Facebook or on Instagram or on YouTube. And when somebody clicks on that ad, that person goes straight to their homepage and there isn't any type of relationship building or nurturing. That is the number one mistake, is thinking that you can just walk up to a complete stranger and without even saying hello, saying, give me your money.
Yeah, I've done that.
We all have. I'm guilty of the same myself. It took me time to learn how to do better.
So not sending them to a homepage or like your pricing page or whatever. Would you send them to a blog? Would you send them to like an email sign up? What's your number one place to send them that you recommend?
Yeah, so there isn't specifically a number one place for everybody, which is the same. You have to think of a journey. Think of it rather than thinking of it as a store, think of it in a way that, let's say you own a beautiful botanical garden and I come in, how would you show me your garden? You would walk me through, you would explain to me what's going on. Think of it in those terms. If I find your ad, you want to, number one, you want to think, how do I identify myself as the right potential customer, which then is a signal that you need to pour a little bit more intention into a relationship with me. So to give you an example, let's say that you are a fitness coach, right? Just for example, and you're running an ad on Facebook or on Instagram, how would you tell apart between somebody who really would be the right client for you and really does need your services versus somebody who just needs to lose a few pounds in the next 3 weeks for a reunion, a high school reunion or whatever? And the difference is what kind of material they want to consume. If you put out, let's say, an article that says the complete guide to long-term sustained, healthy lifestyle, and I click on it, that would be equivalent to me raising my hand to the question that you asked the question, out to the open world, who here is interested in having a long-term sustained, healthy lifestyle? So you have to be kind of mindful of the type of material you're bringing me to, because that initial interaction will essentially be me raising my hand saying, yes, I am the right client for you, or might not be. As I begin to interact, you can then say, okay, this is the person I want to pour a few more ad dollars into because they're probably going to buy. This is a person who is not the right client. I'm not going to retarget them anymore. If they happen to buy anyways, great, but I will not spend another penny on advertising to them. So that allows you to really utilize your budget as efficiently as you can. There was, oh God, I can never remember his name. He owned like several department stores about 100 years ago. And one of the things he said is 50% of all the money I spend on marketing is wasted. I wish I could tell which 50%. And the beauty of where we live today, that this amazing technology that we have with YouTube and Google and Facebook and Instagram, is that we actually have the ability to tell which 50% are being wasted and eliminate them. And so in my opinion, that's the number one mistake.
Okay. Love it. All right. So as you were talking about the botanical store, I was thinking, cause I'm like a Disney fan. I don't know if you knew that. Like me and my wife love going to Disney World. I was thinking like,
didn't you guys get married in Disney?
Yeah, we did. The Grand Floridian down in Florida. It was really awesome. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, so I had
like fun.
It's like my Disney cup here. But I was thinking like you were talking about the botanical garden. I was thinking like, if you've ever been to Disney and been on a Disney World ride, you go on the ride and it exits into a store where they then sell you stuff. So they go through this whole process of telling you the story of the ride. They get you loving the ride, and then they kick you out into a store and say, hey, if you want to buy something, there's stuff here.
Notice they don't put the store in the beginning where you wait in line.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the mistake a lot of us do. We put the store in the beginning thinking, oh, the person is waiting in line. They have time to buy something. Disney says, no, wait in line. We're not going to sell you anything now. We'll do it at the end. That's because they are marketing geniuses.
That is, see, I've stood in countless Disney World lines and I've never looked at that as like their marketing of like telling the story. And then, yeah, that's brilliant.
I mean, they are the masters of telling a story.
Oh yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yeah. All right, Max, if you were going to start a business today and you only had $1,000 in your budget, how would you spend that to get more clients? And in your case, $1 million a year.
Definitely great question. So something to kind of say here. You're probably not going to make $1 million by spending just $1,000. Full disclosure, on average, when a client of mine makes $1 million, they spend about $75,000 on ads.
Okay,
so
that's good to know.
Yeah, so about $75,000 will generate about $1 million in revenue.
That's still a great return.
Yeah, it's a great return. So you won't do that with $1,000. Now, what would I do if I only had $1,000? Now, it's also important to keep in mind that what I would do with a very small budget, and if I needed money like ASAP because I needed to like keep going, pay my bills, is different than what I would do in a long-term sustained marketing campaign, right? When I have a lot more time and I have a lot more money, I would act differently. Now, if I was just getting started at only $1,000 and I needed to generate revenue quickly because I needed to keep paying my bills and keep going, I would take that money and I would put together a giveaway of my service or product. Why giveaway? First of all, why wouldn't I do that on a regular basis as in a normal course of running a business? I wouldn't do that on a regular basis running my business because that's a very expensive way to generate leads, especially if you provide a service, right? If you're selling a digital product like an online course, maybe it's not so expensive to give one away. But if you are a service provider, let's say you're a health coach, let's say you're an accountant, a lawyer, you can't constantly be giving your services away for free because you won't make any money.
Yeah.
But in this case, if I needed to get a lot of leads quickly and I needed a way to know that the leads that are coming in are the right leads, I would put out a giveaway. So just to give you an example, let's say I was a wedding videographer. I'm bringing that example on purpose, obviously.
Yeah.
I would put out a giveaway to win either an engagement video, an announcement video, or a wedding video. Now, obviously, a lot of couples would want to win, so they would all enter. They would all give me their name, email address, their social media, their phone number, and all of that information. I could probably with $1,000 get about 500 people to enter roughly. Out of those 500 people, yes, I would give one of them the service completely away for free. But now I would have another 499 to sell to. And on average, even if I'm a really mediocre salesperson, I'd still sell to 10% of them. And if I'm a sales rock star, I'd probably sell to 20% of them. And so that could be a good way to take $1,000 and quickly turn it into enough money to sustain you for a couple of months.
Huh. I like that.
Right?
Yeah, that's really good.
Now, what's so beautiful about a giveaway? Well, let's say you're giving away an engagement video to a couple. If I'm a single man, would I ever enter your giveaway? What the heck am I going to do with it, right? So it's a wonderful way to identify only the right people, because only the right people are going to want to enter to begin with. Now, I see sometimes, let's say a wedding videographer will do a giveaway and will give away an iPad. And I'm like, no, don't do that, because everybody wants an iPad. It doesn't identify the right people. Give away something that only the right leads would want to take. And the wrong leads would be like, I don't need this.
Huh. Man, you got a lot of knowledge, man. Because like I said, I'm going back to the course I'm creating. It's going to start out as like a beta as I'm creating it. And I'm thinking $47 right now, but I could run ads in the future and give away access to that course to somebody, basically do what you just said. You think that would work for me as well online?
Absolutely. Especially it's even better with a course because it doesn't actually cost you anything to give it away, right? If you're a service provider, it costs you your time and whatever. If you're selling products, it costs you the product. If you're selling digital products like a book or a course or whatever, then it's even more so you should do it because it doesn't cost you a penny to give one away.
Beautiful. I'm definitely going to be trying that. So going back to this $1,000 in your budget, how much, mainly because I'm just being selfish now and I want to know, how much would you recommend? Like, what's the least amount and the ideal amount that you can spend on ads to get a good return? I mean, is it just like an infinite, hey, if you got $30,000, throw 30 at it. But I mean, if you've got, 500, then put what is there a magic number you want to aim for at the beginning?
So, okay. Yes, there is and there isn't. I know it sounds like I'm talking out of the side of my mouth. Well, if you spend too little, it's going to be hard to get to implement what's called in statistics the law of large numbers. If I flip a quarter once, there's really no telling if I'm going to get heads or tails. But if I flip a quarter 500 times, I'm going to be pretty darn close to 50-50. And that's a guaranteed. In fact, a really famous statistician once said, I will never take a bet on a coin flip only once. But if you offer me the same bet for 100 times, I'll take it every single time. Because over a certain number of statistical points, you'll have predictable results. If you only spend $20 on ads, you'd only get maybe 8 to 10 people. It's too small of a group to know that whether you'll actually have good results. But if you spend, let's say, $1,000 and you get 500 people, that's a large group. You can pretty much with certainty predict what your conversion rate will be with a large group like that. So I'm not a fan of keeping the budget so small that you're not going to be able to take advantage of statistics. As a marketer, statistics is your best friend. Well, second best friend after psychology.
That is awesome. All right. So got to have a little bit of budget to get the law of, what was it? The law of numbers, or what was it?
The law of large numbers.
Law of large numbers.
Right. That's also how insurance companies can sell car insurance and not be worried about going out of business. Because look, Geico may sell you a policy and they have no idea if you're going to get into an accident or not. But Geico sells a policy to 10 million people and they know for certain how many of those, they don't know which ones, but they know how many will get into an accident. And then which ones don't matter to them. because ultimately it'll be the same expense, right? So the larger the number, the better. Now, on the flip side of things, what's too much money to spend? Well, number one, don't ever put yourself in a position where if something goes wrong, you are not going to be able to pay back. Like, don't go mortgage your house, take all that money and put it into ads. Please don't even take a credit card and max it out and put it into ads, because what if you're doing something wrong and then you're wasting all that money? So that would be too much. Now, let's assume that you just won the lottery and you really don't have financial problems. You can spend as much as you want. Well, in that case, there's no upper limit, because just in the US alone, just on Facebook alone, there's 230 million active users. These are people who go on Facebook and Instagram literally almost every day, right? So there's really no upper limit. Now, once you include in Australia and Canada, New Zealand, all these other countries, United Kingdom, all these other countries that speak English, there's so many people out there that there's really just, the more you spend, the more you're going to make back if you're doing it right. But you have to scale, right? You spend 1,000, you make sure your system is working, then you spend 2,000, it's still working, then you spend 5,000, it's still working, and then you keep scaling. I never start a campaign right on day one with $20,000 a month, because what if something is wrong? What if I made a mistake? What if one of my web pages is not loading? What if one of my emails has a typo or a broken link? So I'll start slow. I'll let a few people go through the funnel. I'll keep a really close look at it and make sure that everything is working. Then I'll add, I'll increase the budget and keep increasing it. Once I've verified my funnel works and it converts perfectly, that's when I open the flood, and it's not uncommon for me to then jump in and spend $30,000 or $40,000 in 1 month, because I know at that point the return is guaranteed, because I've verified everything is working.
Wow. Okay. So you kind of answered, like, I was going to follow up and be like, the customer, like, just say one of the customers you helped make $1 million, they spent 75,000. I mean, growing, like you said, making sure the system can handle it. I was going to say, could they just take the other $925,000 and dump it on ads and then get 10 million? I mean, in theory,
right, theoretically, yes. But keep in mind, with every new customer, you'll have comments, you'll have questions, you'll have, I lost my password, help me reset it. You'll have, I used the wrong credit card. Can you change it to a different credit card? You have to make sure you have the capacity to nurture those customers.
Yeah.
Purchase. The worst thing that you can do is be a marketing rock star and a customer service failure, because you'll go like this, up and down, right? You'll be very successful and then you'll immediately fail. You need to be able to really treat, those customers with a lot of love so that you can get a ton of reviews and then scale. So you have to make sure that you have the capacity to actually take good care of them on the back end. So I wouldn't recommend, if you just poured, let's say 75K and made $1 million, take a breather, take care of your customers, make sure everything is fine, hire a couple of people because you'll need them at this point, train them. Then when everything works great, go back and do it again. So to give you an example, I had a client launch a course in June. She launched the course, did really, really well. We did 600K, and then we stopped. After a week, we closed cart. So we did 600K in 1 week, then we closed cart. We allowed those people that bought the course to go through and consume the course, give feedback, make sure everything is good. It gave her time to hire a couple of people, train them. And then in November, right around, right in time for Thanksgiving and holidays, we did another launch and and that's where we crossed the $1 million mark on the second launch. But I wouldn't, like, if she came back, she didn't, but if she came back and said, I want to do it again next week, I'd be like, no way, no, you can't. You need to make sure that you have the capacity to take care of the people you just sold.
Good to know. And, I was actually, as you're saying that, like Russell Brunson, I remember watching one of his videos, and it was like somebody who came into ClickFunnels and started using it and kind of did what you said not to do. They had money they were putting into ads, but then they switched over and like, we're using the ClickFunnels method and did the whole thing, and we're putting the same amount of money. They saw so much growth apparently that they couldn't keep up with demand, and it almost destroyed their business. Because people were buying their stuff and they were loving it, but they couldn't, they were selling a physical product they were creating. They couldn't make enough of it. So that's super smart.
Even if it's a digital product, what would you do if tomorrow you got, 1,324 customer service emails? You see my point?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. 100%. Oh man. All right. So there was a lot in that question. I loved that one. That one really well. So take a little shift here. What was the last book you read and would you recommend
I'm gonna cheat a little bit here because the last
it?
book I read wasn't so good, so I'm gonna skip the
So no,
back.
you wouldn't recommend it. Okay.
Um, but the book that I do think that every marketer should read is not even a marketing book. It's called um, the gentleman that wrote it is Daniel Kahneman, and the book is called Thinking Fast and Slow, and it's a bit of a read. It's like this thick. It's a book about human behavior. Basically, this dude it was a psychologist in the 50s and 60s, and he got fascinated with how we behave and on our biases and our what he calls heuristics. And then he partnered with another psychologist. I can't remember the other guy's name right now, but together they spent their entire lifetime, several decades, researching how do we make mistakes every day by using the shortcuts in our brain, right? Our mind has been conditioned to use shortcuts. So to give you an example of just one of those, there is what's called an availability heuristic. If I ask you, um, for example, in the English language, are there more words that start with the letter T or where letter T is in the third position?
I have no idea.
Most people say, of course, start with the letter T, which is incorrect. Why is that? That's because it's much easier for your brain memory to recall a few words that start with T than to recall a few words that where the T is in the third position. So if it's easier to recall, then you say it sounds logical. If it's easier to recall, there must be more of those. But that's not actually true. So this is just one example of hundreds of things like this that we, all of us, all humans, old, young, every race, every language, every country, we all do these. And this book really dives deep into all of this. And when you understand how the human mind works, how we behave and how we think, that takes your marketing and supercharges it. So it's funny that as a marketing guy, my number one book that I recommend is not about marketing. It's about the operating system on which our brains run.
That's something like I love that because that's something I've been saying a lot recently. Like I've realized that if you can understand how humans think and how to connect and communicate with them, then I feel like that would make marketing just almost obvious as to what steps you need to take next and what to tackle next because you know what they're thinking. So that's awesome. So
You're
thinking
100%
fast and
on
slow.
point.
Awesome. I'm glad I'm on the right track
Yeah,
here. Thinking fast and slow. I'm going to add that to my Audible. Hopefully it's on there. I'll have to check, but that's
it is on Audible. Yep.
perfect. I'm going to go check that out because I love listening to books. All right, Max, tell us a story of your biggest marketing mistake, a time when you wasted a lot of time or a lot of money trying something that didn't work.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. So before I became an online marketer, I had a construction company which I sold, and then I decided that I wanted to be a wedding photographer. I absolutely love photographing, and there was a magic in photographing couples that I really enjoyed. But even though I knew, because I've had a degree in marketing, and then I had another degree in marketing, and then I ran a successful company that sold, I knew that what I did was wrong, but I don't know why I didn't think about it. I spent like $1,000 putting an ad in a magazine of a venue. And, you know, we live in a day where print media doesn't work anymore. Unfortunately, it hurts me to even say that because print media has been, a pillar of marketing for, several centuries, I'd say, a
Yeah.
couple of centuries now. But today it doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work anymore because the majority of people who consume media don't consume it in print. And so my number one mistake was when I was starting as a wedding photographer, I poured quite a bit of money into print media, which was a huge mistake.
That's good to know because I've gotten those calls too. I was in the wedding industry. I've gotten those calls from the magazines and from like the venue people that they hand out the pamphlets and it has your business in there. I never did it because that was my thought process is like, well, I don't, it doesn't affect me. Like I wouldn't look at that. I wouldn't pay attention to that. Like,
Yeah.
so I'm going to go on Instagram and find the photographer I want or the caterer. I'm going to get recommendations from other people. I'm not going to open a pamphlet and just see somebody who paid for that spot in there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those moments where I ask myself, Max, what the heck were you thinking? Like, were you
Huh.
drunk or something?
That's interesting because my podcast, like I've been advertising is I'm going to interview people in all facets of marketing in all the professions. And one of them I've been saying is print because I know nothing about print marketing. And in my head, I was like, it must still work in some capacity. I don't know if it's just like if you like have a huge business and your goal is awareness, maybe instead of like actual revenue. Like the Ford and all
This
them
is
who
what
put up billboards and stuff. Or south of the border, if you've ever been in South Carolina or North Carolina, I don't know what their goal is.
this is what I would say. If you ever consider making an ad in a magazine or a newspaper, just go ahead and post on Facebook and ask your friends the following question: when was the last time you purchased a newspaper or a magazine? And see what your friends say.
That's so true. I cannot tell you the last time I purchased a newspaper or magazine.
Yeah, and you'd be the majority of adults in this country today.
That's true. Wow. Okay. Eye opening. So that'd be interesting one day when I actually, if I ever have somebody in print marketing, I'm be interested to see how they're getting results with print because that's super true. I don't buy print things anymore. All right, Max. Do you have any marketers that you follow for inspiration?
Um, I used to be a huge fan, of Seth Godin and quite a few other marketers. And I found that for me personally, looking at other marketers' work siphon away my creativity. So now I actually do something else. Instead of looking at their speaking work or something that they like put on Instagram on a regular basis or on Facebook, which kind of takes away my creativity, I instead like to go, like if I'm going to start an ad on Facebook, I'll go to a Facebook library, which by the way, if you didn't know, every ad on YouTube, every ad on Facebook, every ad on Google, every ad on Instagram, they're all public in the public domain. You can easily look them all up. So rather than looking at their body of work as an educator, because a lot of the good marketers are also educators, I look at what is actually being put out there now and works. So I'll go in the Facebook library, for example, and I'll look up ads for competing products to what I'm about to advertise, and I'll just start looking through. And as I'm looking through, my creative juices start flowing. You will almost never see me do anything that even remotely resembles what I've just seen on the screen. It works more like a primer for my brain to start working. So I'll do that. I'll look through, and then I'll go for a walk. I'll walk 2-3 miles, and I'll let it all cook in there, and then I'll come back, and it just starts flowing out.
Huh.
That's my creative process with advertising.
Nice. Yeah. And I just learned about the Facebook ads library.
So if you go to Google and just type Facebook ads library, it comes right up, and you can look up anybody's ads.
Yep. That's one of the things they talk about in that one funnel away challenge I'm doing. I know I talk about that a lot, but they talk about finding other people's ads and basically doing what you're talking about doing, like getting the creative juices flowing based on what you see other people doing. So that's super cool. And I'd never thought about like siphoning away creativity. I might need to like take a step back.
Yeah, because when I'm listening, let's say to a marketer that has definitely accomplished more than me in life, when I'm listening to him educate, I just want to do exactly what he's telling me to do. But that's not creativity. Following exactly step by step somebody else's instructions is the opposite of creativity.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're doing something that already exists. You're not creating. So for me, I found myself just launching campaigns that sounded exactly like the marketer that I just listened to. Whereas now I'll look at what actually runs on Facebook, and then I'll very purposefully have a disconnect between that session and the actual creation session. And I'll go for a walk, or I'll take a nap or whatever, because I want to disconnect the two. I want to allow my subconscious to start cooking something of its own. Because, I want to bring something new to the world, not just to copy something that already exists.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Love it. All right. Max, what's your favorite marketing tool? Or do you have one?
Yeah, absolutely. My favorite marketing tool is Facebook and Instagram ads. While I am certified on YouTube and Google as well, and they're great platforms. For me personally, nothing has ever given me the same results like Facebook and Instagram. It is absolutely unbelievable how well those work. And so that will be my favorite tool is Instagram and Facebook Ads Manager.
Awesome. I love it. And I know we talked about it in the pre-chat. We're going to do like another session after this recording talking about Facebook ads. And that's going to be like part of my course. So I'm super excited about that to have somebody your caliber on there, spreading that knowledge of how to like look at the back end of Facebook and use those ads, especially since that's your favorite marketing tool. Didn't know that. That's gonna be really cool. All right. So last question. If you could go back to when you first started your business and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
If I could go back to the very beginning when I first started and give myself one piece of advice would be don't overbook yourself. Slow down. When I started, and you know, I'm a pretty much open book. Like I put everything out. I don't hide anything. How much money I make, what anything is out in open. And I started getting a flood of requests like, oh, I want you to help me. I want you to help me. And I suck at saying no. And so I didn't. And I got to a point where I was working 7 days a week, 14-hour days, and I was just so tired. And so if I could go back and tell myself one thing, the advice would be learn those two letters, N-O, no. It's okay to say no to an inquiry. It's okay to say no to a client if you're already fully booked. If you are a marketer and you already are working a full time, you already have enough customers to keep you busy pretty much 40, 45 hours a week, you don't need to take another client on. You can tell them no, and that'll be okay. There'll be another client later. We all get into this mindset when we're a business owner. I have to take the revenue in. If I say no, what if there is no more revenue tomorrow? And that's a mistake because there's always going to be revenue tomorrow. And the only time there won't be revenue tomorrow is if you burn yourself out and get sick.
I love that for multiple reasons. One, self-care, like you said, I've hit that point of burnout before when you're just like curled up in a ball crying because you can't work anymore and you got nothing left in you. I've hit that point. It sucks. And two, because most people out there they're not marketers like you. They don't know how to bring in that work, and like they're hurting. They want to quit their job. They want to find out how to bring in more business. And you're over here talking about how you need to say no to business because you have too much. So like them listening to somebody of your status, somebody who knows how to do what you do as that well is super helpful, because if you're somebody who can book out and you're turning business away and they're struggling to book enough, then there's a disconnect, so being able to hear what you're talking about and implement that stuff is going to be, it's priceless. Like, you can't put a price on that because it'll give them that freedom they've been looking for. Love that. All right, Max, that was all the questions I had lined up. I want to give you a second. What's the best place somebody can go to follow you and get to know a little bit more about you?
Yeah, totally. So the easiest way is just go to marketingbymax.com. It'll take you, I update that page quite often. A lot of times it's just, I keep that as just a regular portal that will have just like, take me to the Facebook group or take me to so I keep that not as a website, but more as a gateway, one pager that could take you to where I am right now. So marketingbymax.com.
Perfect. All right, everybody. That concludes this interview. Marketingbymax.com. Everybody go check that out. Max, I really appreciate you being on today's call. Absolute amazing information in there. Anybody wants to check out more of what he said, reiterate some stuff, or click on some links that are super valuable, head over to mattpeet.com and search for Max Sadik, and it's Sadik. And find his interview page and learn more about Max, because he is an awesome guy. Max, I appreciate you being on today's call. And remember, marketing matters.